Mohini ji wanted to present.
Okay. Namaskara, everyone. Sri Guru Namaha. Today, I'm going to talk about sloka number 59 from chapter 2. This comes in the portion where Arjuna asks Sri Krishna to describe the how Astita Prajna conducts himself through the life experiences, not just sit and talk, but basically he's asking him how does Astita Prajna conduct himself through life. And few of the slokas, Sri Krishna starts describing what Astita Prajna is. But then when we come to this part, the 59th shloka, here, this part of the explanation is addressing towards people who have prajna and have to go towards becoming Sthita Prajna. Sthita Prajna is somebody who has the knowledge that his self nature is the same as Brahman. So people do have prajna but haven't become Sthita Prajna. So Sri Krishna here describes three disciplines that you need to have to become a Sthita Prajna. And one is you have to do the nididhyasa, wherein you contemplate on your own self nature that you are the Atma. Your nature is not different than Brahman. You are the Nitya, Buddha, Siddha, Mukta, Atma that was described before. You have to contemplate on that. Another thing that they ask us to do is to, Sri Krishna says is important in becoming Sthita Prajna is Indriya Nigraha. And then another thing that is important is Mano Nigraha. So now the portion that we are talking is concerning about Indriya Nigraha. So the preceding shloka in 58, Sri Krishna talks about, he gives us an illustration. As far as control of senses is concerned, he gives the illustration of a tortoise. And he there tells that how tortoise withdraws its five limbs, like the four limbs and the head, whenever there is a threat, it sees it withdraws these five extensions of its body, and there it becomes very secure. Okay, so this example, we have to use it as a discipline wherein, like say in the pratyahara or where we withdraw the senses from the external world and practice this for some time where so that our mind becomes steady and can go on to the next stages of dharana, dhyana, samadhi, and things like that. It helps the mind to be steady. This withdrawal of sense organs and trying to concentrate your mind helps as far as spiritual practices are concerned. So this is also whenever we experience any conditions where we think that is going to provoke us, provoke the raga, dvesha, krodha in us, or where we think there are conditions that will make our ahankara get stronger, we can do this so that we can make our mind steady, and a steady mind gives us a very steady intellect where we can either gain knowledge or the available knowledge in our intellect is available for transaction. So this is the way we can use it. So the Kurma Nyaya is what was described in the previous shloka. Now this shloka is very crucial. Here what is Sri Krishna talking about? He's talking about is this withdrawal of senses from the sense objects. Can what is good is, should we enforce it? Should this be an imposition wherein we can do this as a self-imposed process, or it should be as spontaneous as it happens in case of that turtle? Can we do this? Is it possible? And if it is possible, how do we do this? So here Adi Shankara starts explaining by giving us an example of a person who is sick, who has fever, who is on the bed, and he's not able to eat anything, he's not able to hear anything, he's not able to see anything, in the sense because of the disease. Okay, this person is lying on the bed, and whatever is going around him, he's not aware of that. So does that mean that he is not in contact with the sense objects? Is he in the state of pratyahara? Is he like the turtle? Okay, the answer is, we have to first analyze. Look at the shloka. What does it say? Let me read the shloka first. Sorry, I didn't read the shloka. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya parandruštva nivartate. So what does he say first? Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha. So niraharasya, let's concentrate on that word. What does ahara mean? Ahriyate iti ahara. That means whatever we take in is ahara. For example, generally it means food. So for example, when we eat food, it is the ahara for the sense of taste. When we are looking at pictures, we're watching TV or something like that, the ahara for the eyes is the form. When we are listening to music or hearing words, the ahara for hearing is the sound. Okay, similarly, fragrance for smell. So this is what our ahara. And what is nirahara means? That means that person is not taking in anything. So that person who is with fever there, he's not taking in anything. Okay, so is this called the nirahara state? Emphatically, he says no. Because why? Why does he say no? Because he still has the cravings, the rasa for these sense pleasures inside. And so as long as the rasa is there, the relish, the cravings are there, when he recovers, they can come up, and again, he can indulge in sense gratification. So that's why he says no. Okay. And then, so that means he's free from the indulging in the sense organs, but he's not free from the bondage of the sense pleasures. So we have to differentiate that. Okay, he's abstaining, just there is a forced state there, almost like a forced state. So this we have to study in progress, like in progressive states. Basically, now we look at a worldly person who comes in contact with sense pleasures. For example, there is a person who's a diabetic. He has very high blood sugars, let's say in the 400s. His doctor has advised him not to eat a lot of sugar. So, but he goes to a friend's house and he sees a lot of rasagullas. They're very spongy and sweet, and he gets attracted to it. But then he imposes himself, says that, no, I don't want to eat. But then what happens? There is a struggle going on in his mind. What does this struggle do to him? This struggle basically is like the rasa in his mind is bubbling here, and then he sees that rasa. And ultimately what happens is this struggle happens for some time. And it is very difficult for him. That craving is going to be there. So ultimately for a worldly person, what happens is at the slightest excuse or whenever he gets a chance, he will break that. The rasa, the cravings take over, and usually we end up eating the rasgulla, or we give up that resolve that we had already done. So this is the first stage, like we see in worldly people. Then the second stage is for a sadhaka. This sadhaka, he has a lot of grit, determination. He's practicing every day. He does this, for him it comes more easily because he is practicing it. He's doing this with grit and determination. And but the question is, how long can he maintain it? Here Swami Tattvavidananda Saraswati gives the example of people in South. We do this vratam called the Ayyappa Vratam, wherein for 40 days we observe a lot of austerities. It is a very difficult life. These people, they fast, they sleep on the floor, they spend a lot of their time in the rituals, they walk without slippers. It's very austere kind of life that they lead for 40 days, and then they go to Sabarimala and they come back. But the question is, why are they not able to do this for the year long, or say prolong it? What happens is grit and determination can take you up to a certain point, but it cannot get rid of this entire sense pleasures, that the cravings, what he's talking about. And then the third stage is what he says is wherein he talks about is rasopyasya parandrushtva nivartate, wherein we have to get rid of this rasa or the relish that we have. Okay, but when does this happen? When there is the drushti of the param drushtva. What does it mean? We have to analyze this. Drushti is a vision, okay, and param is supreme. So supreme vision. What is the supreme vision? The supreme vision is we have the knowledge that I am the Atma. This Stitaprajna person has that. He knows his self-nature. He knows that he is no different from Brahman, and he is very well established in that knowledge. So that means, and this vision of the Supreme is important. This can liberate you from your vasanas or the cravings of sense pleasures, okay? Now, so we have gone through all these three stages. Just to go through again, is the first stage is for the worldly person, the second stage where we have gone through the sadhaka stage, and the last stage is where we have gone to the stage where a resolved person, how he deals with this, what we say is like the a realized soul or sthita prajna. Okay, so how do we accomplish this? So param drushtva nivartate, what does it mean? This means there is a cognitive change in that person. It is not an enforced discipline. So the cognitive change is this person, he has this knowledge that, basically he knows that unless he has transformed this mental transformation, these sense pleasures will still have a grip on him. Okay, and how do we approach this? So Swami Tattvavedananda Saraswati says we have to do this through the Vichara method. What is Vichara method? It is the path of inquiry. So path of inquiry, how does this start? Okay, first we have to realize that this very clearly understand that pursuit of sense pleasures is fundamentally corruptive. It is not, we have to have this knowledge with a lot of clarity, and it has to be imprinted in our mind. And then this transformation, it will happen. It will take time. It will happen slowly, but it is sure to happen. This is what is been practiced, and it has been shown to be successful. So this is what we need to first understand and work towards this cognitive transformation that is necessary. How do we do this? This is done by method of Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasa. Shravana is we have to go to the scriptures. For example, the example that he gives is, this entire thing is taken from different sources like Swami Paramarthananda, Swami Tattvavedananda Saraswati, Jaykumarji's lecture, and also my Guru Ashwath Uncle's, my Ashwatji's lecture. So a lot of people I have give credit to, but the gist of this is first you have to learn, go to the scriptures. You have to learn what the scripture says about this. The beautiful example that is given is in Kathopanishad. Most of you know the story of Kathopanishad, wherein this boy Nachiketas, he goes to the abode of Yama, and he basically, having reached there, wants to know. There are other things that he got boons too, but he wants to know what happens to, what is that survives death, or basically he wants to know the Atma Jnana. And at that time, so what happens is, Yama is, initially he says, yes, it's okay. I mean, Atma Jnana, it is like he distracts Nachiketas. He says, why do you need Atma Jnana? You are a child, you are a young person. You don't have the means, but I will give you means for your sensual pleasures. It is your appropriate age. You don't have the means. I will give you the means to enjoy sense pleasures. Why do you need all this Atma Jnana and everything? You probably are so young that you cannot even think properly about the ideas of sense pleasures. On your behalf, I will think about them and I will grant it to you. They will be at your beck and call. And you know what? You should enjoy your life. Atma Jnana. So then Nachiketas asks, what happens about Atma Jnana? He says, Atma Jnana can wait. First enjoy this. So Nachiketas as a child also has this viveka. He says, Shvobhava amartasya yadanta kaitaka sarva indriyanam jaranti tejaha. That means he says, yes, I understand you're trying to lure me with sense pleasures, but what is the nature of these sense pleasures? Sense pleasures basically are the happiness that you get is very superficial. It is very transient. He has this viveka. What viveka we need? We need viveka to get jnana. The viveka, it could be dharma viveka, it could be nitya viveka, it could be atma anatma viveka. But here, what Nachiketas is talking about is the viveka of the happiness that you get, the long-lasting happiness that you get versus the happiness that you get from sense gratification. We have to have this viveka first. And this from scriptures, a lot of examples are there. This is only the one example that we have cited. And then this basically, once we know the difference that, the ananda or the spiritual ananda that we have, if that we have, the vasanas will not interfere. So if we get a glimpse, even a glimpse of that supreme self, that aspect of us, the vasanas will not come back is what it says. Then not only Shravana, we need to do mananam on this. That is, we have to basically reflect on it, and then kind of any doubts are there, we have to clear it. And then Nididhyasa. Nididhyasa is contemplation on this. For example, Swami Tattvavedananda Saraswati says, the way you do Nididhyasam on this when the sense pleasures bother you, you're abstaining for it, you will have a lot of struggle. Look at the struggle, don't run away from it. He gives the example of a smoker. Okay, we are not talking about the physical cravings, the physical withdrawal. We are talking here about the psychological cravings, okay, basically, because that takes us into a complicated path. The psychological cravings, they make that person feel like he cannot live anymore. He cannot deal with this and he escapes. He escapes and goes away and smokes. And that gives him some happiness. So what the Swami Tattvavidananda Saraswati says is, look at that struggle that you have, slowly separate yourself from that. Look at it, face it, don't run away from that. Okay, this practice, when you do, what happens in you is, it cannot happen once, but slowly, if you continue this kind of practice, what happens is in this day of COVID age, this word everybody knows, there happens a mutation or a change in your mental approach to the problem. Is you will be able to face it. You will develop a distance between that problem and yourself, and you will be able to confront it. And this is what also continuously, all these three practices again, over and over again, will give you that control over your sense gratification, that happiness that you want to seek through sense gratification versus the happiness that is from your true nature. This will only get rid of your cravings. This is what is mentioned in this shloka. If I make any mistakes, I owe it to myself. But if there is anything, I owe it to all my gurus who have given me this knowledge. Thank you.
Nice, Mohini. So the Sthita Prajnatvam, so 2 or 3 verses there you covered, and then talked about cognitive change, which is critical, because Atma is a Siddha Vastu. It is not something that is going to be a result of action, and so all actions are meant for that Antakarana Shuddhi. And he also mentioned Nachiketa as a good example and good inspiration for everybody, adults and children alike. Shvobhavaha, he says Shvobhavaha, and Shankara gives a meaning for that word Shvobhavaha. He says Shvaha asti vanava iti bhavaha. Whatever you have offered, hey Amma, you offered a lot. It's amazing. I know nobody can get this kind of offer. I also appreciate that. But they're all Shvobhavas. Means everything will fall in the category of, oh, will it exist tomorrow or not? Will it exist tomorrow or not? Will it exist tomorrow or not? A long time. Okay, long time is also finite. Will it exist tomorrow or not? So he uses that word Shvobhava. Very, very interesting. Good. So and then Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasam. Yeah. Thank you. It was good.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Anjali is there. Go ahead.
Mohanji, Mohaniji, thank you so much. You have covered so much information in such a short time. And I was trying to keep up with you and kind of process what you were saying. And I wasn't able to do it as well. Do you have notes on what you have just talked about that you could share with us?
Yeah, sure. I can share.
Would you
many different books, but yeah, I have made notes on this. Yes.
Yes. Would you please do that, because you have said some things that are very profound. That it needs, for me, I need a few minutes to digest each of it, and you went through so fast.
Because the time, I mean, I took a lot.
Yeah. Unmute, Sundari.
Okay. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. My pranams to Shri Jayakumarji and my pranams to one and all present here. I am not going to any sloka or description of any sloka, because this is the first text I have started learning it in a serious manner. So I am going to tell what I have got out of this learning. Now, when I think of my life, I think I can divide it as BG and AG. What I meant by that is before entering Bhagavad Gita entering my life and after Bhagavad Gita entering my life, in a, what can I say, in a substantial manner, in a significant manner. So I see a few significant positive changes after going through this course of learning Bhagavad Gita with Jayakumarji. So I have a few lists, because I just made a lot of introspection, and I see that, I am more at peace with myself. That is number one. Second, I'm able to let go of many things. Otherwise, I will cling on to it and then, just start worrying about it. And I'm able to let go of things. The third significant thing that has happened is my threshold for pain has increased significantly. And the next one I can think of is any activity now I seem to be more focused. And one more thing is I start now enjoying the process more than the result. So I seem to enjoy the process nowadays more than the result. So a little bit of Bhagavad Gita has gone into me. Last but not least, and the study of Bhagavad Gita has motivated me to learn Sanskrit, and I have taken it a little seriously only. I enjoy every bit of the homework and the learning of Sanskrit. Now coming to the chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, I often used to hear this third sloka, especially a few words. Klaibyam mamsma gamapartha. And then, there will be a little pause. And then I'll hear it, Tekkyo Tishta Parantapa. And it suddenly happened one day, and I was just thinking, okay, so what? Left it for some time. And then again, I started hearing this maybe 5-6 times. And when I was cooking, again, this Klaibyam mamsma gamapartha and Tekkyo Tishta Parantapa. Then I said, no, I can't keep quiet. So I just came from the kitchen, took the Bhagavad Gita book, and then tried to find out where it is. And I saw that it is the third sloka from chapter 2. And then I went through the meaning of that. A small, write-up was there. And surprisingly, from there, then onwards, it seems to me that, this particular thing, whenever I try to avoid doing certain things or something like that, this Klaibyam mamsma gamapartha Tekkyo Tishta Parantapa keeps on coming. So it seems to be a kind of not somebody telling from outside, Gita telling from inside. In other words, Krishna telling something. And this seems to be a mantra for me. So I do understand the power of Gita. Now, again, I have another sloka, sloka 7. Shishyasteham shati mam tvam prapannam. Now I work, and I work, and right now I am connected with an organization run by my guru. Generally, especially in an organization, you have lots of doubts, apprehensions. The guru could have done it like this. And all these things come to you, because of your perception, your perceived understanding of the scenario. And this particular set of words, Sishyasteham Shati Mam Tvam Prapannam, and that gave a paradigm shift from my concentration onto the guru. Then I was concentrating on the Shishya in me. And it has induced the Shishya, or probably unfurled the Shishya in me, the Shishya Bhava in me. And I have started now concentrating on the Shishya in me and the surrender to my guru. And thus, now I start understanding many things that happen in the organization as well as in my life. And now, instead of blaming the guru, sometimes it's not exactly blaming, maybe he could have done it like that or something like that. So, you think of you as a Shishya and the surrender Bhava, the Shishya Bhava, and that helps you to solve many problems. And this is my personal this journey. It has given me this. So I have a feeling, I will be looking forward to many such pearls of wisdom during this journey of Bhagavad Gita. And I can only say thank you so much. I see a lot of change in me. Even my daughter says, and it is very, very a practical guide for me. Pranams to everybody and pranams to specifically Jayakumarji. I owe a lot to you. Thank you. I'm Shivaya.
Good. So BG and AG. So now you are AG. Previously you were BG.
Yeah.
Before Gita, now after Gita.
Exactly.
And your daughter loves you studying. She wants you to study more and more on Gita because less of a problem at home.
No, we do. Yeah, exactly. We do have a lot of discussions. And she's now in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And now I am in the 4th chapter. So we have a lot of discussions also going on. I know it's very, very nice, Jayakumarji. I enjoy life now. I used to enjoy it before, but what I'm trying to tell you is I see the positive side of everything now. It's a celebration every day, like that.
Good, very nice. Thank you, Sundari. Nice.
Thank you, Jayakumarji. I owe a lot to you and I thank my daughter also because she was the one who registered this course on my behalf. So thanks to her and thanks to you a lot. Thanks to you a lot.
Krishnarpanamastu. Krishnarpanam.
We have time for one more.
Okay, 8:07. Okay. Yeah, let's pause briefly and maybe we can. Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amritakalasahastaye Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trilokyanathaya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amritakalasahastaye Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trilokyanathaya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amritakalasahastaye Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trilokyanathaya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha.